Look, I get they wanted to have atmospheric fight scenes, but my god, I had to whack up the brightness of my telly to max to just be able to see what was going on. Hello, I Phil. Welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like, enjoy and consume. Things like Doctor Who, Red Dwarf and the MCU. And we are at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the final episode. I've been reviewing every episode. If you fancy going back, you can watch the other 5 if you wish as well. They are all there for you to consume on the channel. But we're at the finale now, which stupidly I forgot to write down the title of on my notes. Whatever it is. It's probably very significant. It is episode 6 though, I know that much. And it's the finale, the final episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I presume we're not going to be getting any more because, well, 1, he's not called Falcon anymore. So a TV show called Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's not his title anymore. Wouldn't work out. And 2, these Disney Plus shows seem to be limited series, and I quite like that. They tell the story they need to tell, and then they move on to something else. This episode was also very much the sort of polar opposite to last week. Last week, I mentioned the fact that I liked the fact that they took a bit more time to focus on the characters. It was less action heavy. There was only one action scene in the whole thing. That was right at the beginning. And they really sort of used that episode, the penultimate episode, to delve into where the characters had been and where they'd grown to. And I really liked that last episode. We don't really get any of that this episode, apart from right at the very end. It is mostly action all the way. And, oh, spoilers, by the way, obviously. If you have not seen the episode, go away, watch it, come back. Where was I? Oh, yes. So, the action was good action. I enjoyed the action. The bit where Captain America, the new Captain America, Sam Wilson, bursts through the window, does a little roll, stands up, and he's there in his new Captain America suit with the shield. That was a great moment. That was a cool moment. It was a cool costume. And then that moment when somebody asks him who he is and he goes, I'm Captain America. Perfect. And yeah, the rest of the fight scenes, all very good. But also, all very kind of generic. There was a lot of generic fight scenes in this. They were fine. They were enjoyable to watch. There was nothing I didn't sit there going, I'm bored. But there was nothing really that I felt stood out in the fight scenes either. Which for a finale is a bit disappointing. Other than Sam bursting through that window and him having a few moments where you go, yeah, go Sam. There wasn't anything really special about the action in this episode, unfortunately. There weren't any massive standout moments, I thought. No, not even any massive, even the individual character confrontations, none of them really popped in the way that, say, Vision v. Vision did in WandaVision. So, yeah, it was okay. I enjoyed it, but it was, just okay. As I alluded to in my intro, though, everything was filmed very darkly. Everything was very darkly lit, which is great for atmosphere, but I had to whack up the brightness on my telly so much to be able to even see what was going on. I spent the first 10 minutes going, I can't really make... Now, admittedly, I was watching this at 9:30 in the morning on a very sunny day here in the UK. So there was sunlight coming through my windows, which would have had an effect. If I'd been watching it at night without the sunlight, I would have been able to see a bit more anyway. Okay. But I still think maybe it was filmed a tad too dark, because I don't usually have to whack up the brightness on my telly to be able to see nighttime scenes in movies. So, yeah. Just a little bit too dark there. We get Sharon turning up in the US to seemingly assist. We'll get more to some stuff about her later. Obviously, I mean, we're in a you've seen it. You know what happens with Sharon. But I will talk about that later. But one question I had early on is, she's a wanted woman at this point in the US. And she's just walking around this current active terrorist scene where there are official government personnel with guns. And she's just walking around them, and nobody's questioning her, nobody's asking her who she is and what she's doing there. Seemed very strange. When she had the facial thing to disguise her, sure, that made sense, how she got in there in the first place. But then she takes that off and she's just Sharon Carter again. Why is nobody questioning why she's there? Nobody's going, excuse me, ma'am, what are you doing here? And then later on, when she's in the car park area and she bumps into the guy, one of the flag smashers that is posing as a security guard, he doesn't go like, oh, what are you doing down here? You should be on the bus. Because if she's dressed in a suit, she could be one of the delegates or something. But he didn't go like, oh, you should be on there, escaping with the rest of the civilians or the diplomats or whoever they were. Just sort of shrugs it off, which is very weird. There were several things in this episode. I'm going to sound like I'm really nagging on this episode, but I feel like they just rushed a lot of stuff as well. So the fight scenes weren't amazing, these fight scenes would have been perfect for any other episode that weren't a finale, I think. They were good fight scenes, well choreographed. They were exciting, but there was just nothing special about them, if that makes sense. So you got that. You've also got various characters that kind of felt rushed in where they ended up. Carly being one of them. She has gone down a rabbit hole of being... Clearly we're meant to not, by this point, empathise with her. We started off the programme in the first few episodes kind of... Her cause is a very just cause. It's a very reasonable cause. And in the end, she gets kind of what she wanted anyway through her actions, even though, she had to be... Did she die? I can't even remember. But her goals were good. It's just that she's been getting more and more to the point where even her own crew are questioning her. And, slightly. They're not convinced that she's going down the right course here. You can see it in their faces when she suggests that they might need to kill the delegates that they've kidnapped. And this isn't as rushed as the next one I'm going to mention, but that development just kind of feels a little bit rushed. Like, she's gone from, okay, yeah, she blew up the building full of people several weeks ago. I don't know. There's just something about, the show has gone like it panicked halfway through and went, oh god, we need to make her less likeable. Let's get her to suggest killing some people in cold blood. And that was it. The other one was John Walker. Now, John comes in here after Carly, because obviously Carly killed his friend. And she makes the mistake of saying, and I think this is quite a good line, that, oh, I didn't mean to kill your friend. I don't want to kill people that don't matter. And, that's the wrong thing to say about Battlestar to John Walker, his best friend. That he didn't matter, which pisses him off royally, and he goes after her. And we presume wants to kill her. That's where he was kind of at beforehand with her. He doesn't seem at this point to want to bring her to justice. There gets a moment where he has to choose between saving some people or trying to save some people in a truck that is going off the edge of a building and pursuing her. And you can see the dilemma on his face and I want to do the right thing, but I also want to get my revenge. And he does the right thing and he goes and tries to save the people on the thing. He doesn't quite manage to pull the thing up because he's continuing to be attacked by other flag smashers. But he manages to keep hold of it and stop it going over the edge long enough for Sam to get there with his wings and actually save the people. So he does his bit. Now, the show and the way he was portrayed after this is what I mean by rushing his story. Because after that, the whole show, the whole program, and indeed the characters in it seem to treat him like he's been redeemed. Because he chose to do the right thing once and not seek revenge once and go for the greater good over it. He's suddenly redeemed. That's so rushed. It just does not make much sense at all. And both Cap and Bucky, even though they still... Sam... I've called Sam Cap. Excellent. It's got into my head. He is Cap now. Sam does say to Bucky, gives him a look when John Walker goes off with them on their mission. And it's kind of keep an eye on him look. But they do work together. Understandably, because of the situation they feel they might need to, they don't have time to hash this out. But they don't hash it out at all. There's no repercussions for John after this. He sort of even gets a pat on the back at one point, I think. He's sort of treated like he has really, redeemed himself. It just kind of feels really rushed and really unearned for him. So I don't know what the show, it's like the show kind of went, oh yeah, we need him to end up as US agent by the end. He's done this horrible thing a couple of episodes ago and had this massive, comeuppance. We're just going to gloss over and get into the point where he's kind of redeemed. He's a bit anti-hero-esque, but we want him to get into that anti-hero-esque bit, but he's, it's all right now. Don't worry about the fact that he killed somebody in cold blood on the street. Don't worry about it. What? So that was, not sure about that. What else was there? Sharon, confirmed power broker. Told you. I mean, I'm not the only one. Loads of people have been guessing this for weeks, but yeah, pretty much ever since her first episode, I've been going, oh, is she the power broker? I don't think she might be the power broker. And every week it's just gotten more and more cemented in my head that she, based on her actions that we've seen, that she is probably the power broker. And here we get it confirmed. She's the power broker, and the one person that knew that, or the two people that knew that, are now dead. I think, is the Leaper guy dead? Is the French guy dead? I said his name wrong last time. I'll probably say it wrong again. Is it Bartok the Leaper? Or Barak the Leaper? I can't remember. It's one of them two. The French guy. Is he dead? Can't remember. But Carly definitely is, because Sharon shot her. She shot the French guy as well. But did he die? I'm not sure. Can't remember. So, she's eliminated Carly, who knew who she was. That story and that reveal actually played out quite well. I really liked the way that was revealed, the way that she's still the power broker and still nobody knows. Sam doesn't know and Bucky doesn't know. And she gets a pardon at the end in the post-credit scene. There's a scene where she gets pardoned and we start to think, and she's quite emotional about it. She's like, you don't know how much this means to me. Thank you, blah, blah, blah. And then she walks out of the courtroom and immediately is on her phone talking about how she can now get hold of government secrets to sell because she's got her old job back. Talking of her old job, what is that? Was she... Because I thought her old job was in S.H.I.E.L.D., so when they said you can have your old position back in your old department, were they talking about S.H.I.E.L.D.? Does S.H.I.E.L.D. exist? I don't know. Here's a can of worms, but in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it ends with S.H.I.E.L.D. being reformed again. I maintain that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still, at this moment, canon MCU. It is still not being directly contradicted, but I do also acknowledge that ending of S.H.I.E.L.D. being reformed is the most likely thing that will eventually be the straw that broke the camel's back and will make it so that it is irreconcilable with the rest of the MCU. But they haven't got to that point yet because the MCU hasn't established that S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't back. So, at the moment they can still kind of coexist and not contradict each other directly. But who knows? Oh no, wait, Sharon didn't last work for S.H.I.E.L.D., did she? Didn't she go to work for the CIA after that? I think. After Winter Soldier, after S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, she was then working for the CIA. So that's probably what they're talking about. So the bad guys have essentially been defeated. The rest of the Flag Smashers are blown up by somebody. I don't know who. Was it Zemo? Was that Zemo's butler in the car? I can't remember. I didn't. That's a thought I only had afterwards, and I haven't gone back to look at him again. But it might have been Zemo that blew them up. It did then cut to him listening to the news about it, so that would make sense. So he got what he wanted in the end. He's on the raft, and that's where they were heading, the rest of the Flag Smashers, but now they're dead. Then we get Sam challenging the senators and his whole speech, and it was a good speech. It was a speech worthy of, Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor's speeches. It was a good speech, talking about lots of things about how, they can't carry on in the old ways and that they should learn from this and learn that people like Carly will keep coming up because then they feel dissatisfied with the world and disenfranchised with how they have been treated. And as he says, we can do better. And he basically guilt trips them or publicly guilt trips them so that the PR around it is that they pretty much have to abandon their plans to resettle people which is what Carly wanted in the end. So it's really interesting that we get Zemo getting what he wanted, which is all the super soldiers dead. We get Carly getting what she wanted, which is this relocation thing not happening. So we get the power broker basically getting what she wanted and getting into an even better position to sell government secrets and weapons and things. All of the bad guys in this basically got what they wanted. So that's an interesting ending. But interestingly, the things the bad guys wanted, maybe with the exception of Power Broker, aren't necessarily bad things. They weren't bad aims. You know, Carly and her super soldiers were dangerous. I'm not saying they should have been killed, but they were dangerous. The world, you know, it would be better if people weren't being told to turn into super soldiers. Like, anybody could be turned into super soldiers. And they got what they wanted in terms of... So that's what Zemo got, what he wanted. You know, questionable tactic. It's all about tactics versus objectives. And the tactics weren't great, but the objectives were possibly good. And it all kind of worked out in the end. The bad guys got defeated. They're either in prison or dead. Apart from Power Broker again. But the good aims, the aims of theirs that were good, still managed to get achieved. It's a weird ending, but I kind of like it. Towards the end, we get US agent being set up. Val is there, and John Walker comes out in his new black version of his costume as US agent. Again, this feels a bit like, you know, he's been redeemed. He's obviously going to work for this sort of slightly shadowy organization now that Val is part of, but he just kind of feels like, again, it just feels a bit rushed, his redemption. I'm not against him having a redemption arc, but don't rush it. You know, that could have been a whole massive arc over a whole series of something or a whole movie in itself. It was just rushed. Basically, all he did was save a truck, and we're meant to go, oh, okay, I guess he's alright. We also get Sam and Bucky tying up their own emotional loose ends that we have from the beginning. So we get Bucky finishing off his list and finally telling the old man that he had killed his son. Which was, you know, one of the most emotional moments of the series, I think. I actually genuinely welled up a bit there, and it was a really touching moment. Then we get Sam visiting Isaiah and sort of making peace with him and taking him to the Captain America Museum, where there is now an exhibit all about him, all about Isaiah Bradley, his contribution to wars and saving his fellow men, trying to rescue his fellow soldiers, all recognised for the first time, and that was a lovely touching moment too. So both of them have kind of dealt with their issues, which were established early on in the series. Bucky of the guilt and trying to make amends and finally completing that journey and realising how he needs to complete that journey as well. And then Sam coming to terms with taking on the mantle of Captain America as a black man and what that means, and that it can mean a vision for hope rather than betrayal, which is what Isaiah originally saw it as. He's managed to turn that around, even in Isaiah's eyes, who was, after everything done to him, was very adamant that no black man should ever take that symbol on. And for a series that has dealt a lot with their personal journeys, the two main characters' personal journeys, are very sort of, rather than being all action all the time, even though in this episode it was mostly action, that was a very fitting ending to it. So there we go. When are we next going to see Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Oh, no. Sorry, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. As it said at the end there, the titles came up, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Will they be back? I mean, it's not... These are meant to be limited series, and they've told the story they need to tell, but it's not out of realms of possibility that there could be another story that they want to tell with these two, and they could do it in this form. Or it might be a case of, well, whenever the next Avengers movie comes along, that's when we'll see them next. I do hope we see them again at some point soon, though. Let me know what you thought of this episode. How do you think it wrapped up as a finale? For me, as I said, it was a bit of a bit of a anticlimax in terms of the bulk of the episode, but the emotional stuff right at the end I really liked. So how do you feel about it? Do you think it lived up to sort of finale levels or not? Let me know in the comments below, and any other thoughts you've got. So the next MCU TV series that's coming along is Loki. That's not starting till June, so that's the end of the Friday reviews for a little while, but I will be back with them when probably reviewing Loki when it starts. So do join me for that. In the meantime, I've got lots of other stuff on the channel. I've got a weekly podcast reviewing Red Dwarf. Obviously, I talk about Doctor Who a lot as well, Star Trek, other things like that. So if you like any of that stuff, do hit that subscribe button. And there will be other MCU content as well. Thanks a lot. See you soon.